The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
And hello again, wrestling fans. It is Thursday afternoon, or at least when you're watching it, Thursday afternoon, 12 o'clock, your trip through history, the great rich history of our great sport, as Tony Giovanni would say. I think I just messed up a slight bit, but the rich history of our great sport, I think is probably better how he would describe it. But yeah, it's Thursday when you're watching it. It is Tuesday afternoon, evening right now when I'm recording this. Still foot up, elevated, but hopefully getting the cast off tomorrow morning and heading to Timmins, Ontario for a family funeral, unfortunately. But so a lot of things going on. But we wanted to make sure we got this in and did not lose a week on our trip through history. So thank you for joining us on YouTube and Facebook. Later on, listening to us on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcasts from. As you heard from the voice of John Scott, we are part of the Johners Podcasting Network, and that is out of the UK. But there's podcasts from all over the world involved with this network, and we just recently launched its own app. So go check out the Google store to find the Johners Podcasting Network app. Almost 40 different podcasting channels all on this network. So many different varieties of shows, different areas of the world you're hearing from. Down in the U.S., there's obviously in the U.K., and so you're going to know talent from there. Here in Ontario, everywhere. So if you're loving podcasts, you can go to the Johners Podcasting Network and catch all that. So want to thank you for being part of that. Download the app, and reminding you that we are sponsored by Coolbet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. And go get your t-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/scumbagswrestling. If you get the Ontario Indie comic book cover, you're always going to be sponsoring money towards Stevens Wrestling Journey and Carey Malformation Research at Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. So buy your t-shirts through prowrestlingtees.com/scumbagswrestling and get yourself a great t-shirt and help a great cause. And reminding you that this weekend, so on the 28th, only a couple days from now, Heatwave Summer Market Hot Sauce Expo happening at Budweiser Gardens. 35 vendors of hot sauces, chicken wings. You got craft beers. There's going to be a patio out there. You name it. It's happening at Heatwave. Don't regret missing this because London is only a short drive from anywhere in Ontario, basically, and we want to get out there, enjoy ourselves responsibly, and support great events whenever they're available. Just like we asked you to go out and support Ribfest, and people did just that. Tons of people showed up for that. So help support Heatwave Hot Sauce Expo. Now, let's head over to Niagara Falls and check in with Jonesy, who put this list together, because we're talking about August 20th through the 26th. How are you, Jonesy?
I'm pretty good at the moment.
Things I plugged there before bringing in.
Yeah. I'm looking for the right week. I got the wrong week up here somewhere.
Uh-oh. Yeah,
okay.
I just got your other list for the next week, and I'll be researching our pictures for that while I'm probably on the road to Timmins, Ontario, and we'll be ready to record for the next week.
We're doing the 20th to the 26th today?
That is correct. So, but how are things in Niagara Falls?
Definitely busy on the weekends. The weekdays today wasn't too bad. If you're sitting in the shade, it was beautiful. If you're out in the sun today, yikes!
Yeah, it
was another hot one.
All over Ontario, that seems to be the case. But hey, as long as you got some air conditioning, a big glass of water, what more could you want? So let's sit back and listen to some of the great history of our sport.
All right. We're going to start with August 20th. 67 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia, June Byers defeated Mildred Burke to win the NWA World Women's Championship. 58 years ago in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Crusher and the Dick Bruiser defeated the Koloffs, which was Ivan and Karol Koloff, to win the AWA World Tag Team Championship. Crusher and the Dick would go on to win the AWA tag titles 5 times together.
Very accomplished tag team. Probably up there in comparison now with what the New Day and the Usos and the Bar did, considering they were one of the teams who won the titles 5 times. And there's probably not a lot of teams that did that in their era.
Indeed. 26 years ago in Kawasaki, Japan, Cactus Jack defeated Terry Funk in a no-ropes exploding barbed wire ring time bomb match to win the International Wrestling Association Japan King of Death Match tournament.
And I'm pretty sure it probably wasn't a bunch of sparklers and a fizzle-out blood farting church that AEW ended up having with their version of death match, because these guys set the standard of what to look for death matches.
Moving on, 25 years ago at a WCW Saturday night taping in Dalton, Georgia, Lord Steven Regal defeated Lex Luger to win the WCW World Television Championship. 20 years ago on Raw is War, Sarah defeated Diamond Dallas Page. This is the only ever match for the then wife of The Undertaker. The show is best remembered for Kurt Angle spoiling Austin Appreciation Night by hosing the alliance with milk, leading Jim Ross to spout the iconic line, "The billion-dollar princess has become a Dairy Queen."
Yeah, that was just horrible, what happened with DDP and having to be jobbed out like he did. The whole storyline with Sarah was ridiculous as it was. And then you see this picture that's up here, and she's like almost doing a push-up to hold him down in that pose, and he's laying there like he's Undertaker instead of DDP. Just horrible. Like, as the picture says, first match versus 3-time world champion. Crazy. And then, of course, Milkomania running wild, redoing the beer truck that Austin did years prior. There's actually a whole podcast with Angle talking about this with Conrad Thompson a couple of episodes ago on the Kurt Angle show. And he talks all about how they led up to it and kept Kurt actually out of the whole show until that final moment where he pulled in with the milk truck and let everybody have it. But imagine having to go home after being sprayed with the milk, because it wasn't just the ring that got it. There would have been a lot of people in the front row on the horseshoe of that ring, getting soaked with milk too, and then trying to get home before it started spoiling.
Well, I'm wondering if it was ever actually milk.
Oh, it was milk.
See, that actually shocks me because, that would, I'm sorry, if I was the arena, the cleanup of that, oh my God.
Oh, for sure.
It had to be more watered down, though. It didn't look like it was thick milk. It was definitely not, homogenized.
It could have been some 1% there, but,
maybe powdered milk.
Just like with Austin in the beer truck, that was actual beer, and that's why he tried taking a sip and nearly blowing his head off. And of course, Angle stood on top of the truck afterwards and down 2 cartons of milk, just like Austin did with his beer. And really good night, and cementing him as one of the top baby faces for WWE at the time, considering Austin was still focused on wanting to be a heel, which in that ill-fated decision of his. But yes. Vince and JR apparently owed it to Austin to at least give her the old college tries after everything that Austin did for them.
All right, 15 years ago, WWE presented SummerSlam 2006. It featured the final WWE match of Hulk Hogan. Hogan would win that match with a classic Hogan leg drop
against the legend killer Randy Orton.
Yes. 11 years ago, Jimmy Saeed Waba, a.k.a. Shandar Akbar, dies of prostate cancer in Garland, Texas. He was 75. He was born September 29th, 1934 in Vernon. Sak Akbar, Arabic for Alexander the Great, would wrestle for more than a decade, most notably for Mid-South Sports, NWA Tri-State, the WWF, and Australian World Championship Wrestling. In the late 70s, he'd retire, become a manager for the likes of Abdul the Butcher, Cactus Jack, Dustin Reynolds, Steve Austin, Ted DiBiase, and The Punisher, who would, of course, go on to have a somewhat moderate success as The Undertaker.
Yeah, just a little bit of success. Unfortunately, I've heard his name before, but I've never don't recall seeing anything with Skandar Akbar. It might have been more of the USWA, and that's where he was with Austin then, and Undertaker and people like them at that time. But I don't think he ever made it to the WWF during the time that I ended up starting my fandom.
Yeah, no, it said that he was there when they had the extra W.
Yeah.
All right. 10 years ago, Matt Hardy was arrested for drunk driving after his car hit a tree. If it was his car, why was he arrested? He would be released from TNA, but of course he'd return to TNA in July of 2014. Wow, yikes.
What a wonderful mugshot from TMZ.
That is a great picture, man. 6 years ago, John Cena grants his 500th wish on the Today Morning Show. Present day, Cena has granted over 650 wishes.
It's crazy how many. I think he's the most from any celebrity to give that many wishes. It was a milestone at 500, but nowadays at 650 or more, it's incredible. And that's probably the single most reason why, as much as people would love to see him turn heel, and they teased it with the Bray Wyatt Firefly Funhouse match at the WrestleMania 36, he never turned heel like Hogan did. Yes, he was heel when he was doing the rapper thing, but then became face and has never looked back, unfortunately. Character-wise, might have been awesome, but because of his outside endeavors, I don't think it'll ever happen.
And, of course, it's a happy 57th birthday to Terry Potch, best known as WWF's Tori. Moving on to August 21st, 59 years ago in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Vern Gagne defeated Mr. M to win the AWA World Heavyweight Championship. 56 years ago in St. Paul, Minnesota, the Crusher defeated Bad Dog Vachon to win the AWA World Heavyweight Championship. That's a big blonde boy. And there's another big blonde boy. 42 years ago, Dusty Rhodes defeated Harley Race to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship for the first time. This loss would end Race's 926-day run as champ. Race, however, would win the title back just 5 days later.
Yeah, it's a long title run, and people thought Walter holding the NXT UK title for over 870 days was a long reign, but for Harley at 926.
24 years ago, WCW presented Clash of the Champions 35. This was the final edition of the series that began way back in March of 1988. Two titles would change hands. Steve McMichael defeated Jeff Jarrett to win the WCW United States Championship, and Alex Wright defeated the Ultimo Dragon to win the WCW World TV title.
Das Wunderkind.
Das Wunderkind. 21 years ago on Raw is War, Lita defeated Stephanie McMahon in the show's main event to win the WWF Women's Championship. This marked the first time in Raw history that a women's match main evented the show.
Weird. I thought Trish and Steph were first, but I guess Stephanie stands to reason with the boss's daughter getting in on the milestone first.
Yeah. 19 years ago, at a NWA TNA weekly pay-per-view, Jerry Lynn defeated Low-Ki and AJ Styles in a ladder match to win the TNA X Division Championship. 16 years ago, WWE presented SummerSlam 2005. Chris Benoit defeated Orlando Jordan in just 26 seconds to win the WWE United States Championship. Rey Mysterio defeated Eddie Guerrero in a custody of Dominic ladder match. Kurt Angle defeated Eugene to regain possession of Angle's Olympic gold medals. Did he lose those more than once?
Yeah, probably.
Wow.
Sort of like the $1 million championship.
And Hulk Hogan defeated Shawn Michaels in a over-the-top Shawn Michaels acrobatic match.
Yeah, there was some extreme selling there. It didn't help that when it was first proposed and Shawn ended up turning heel to make this program happen, that it was supposed to be a 203 sort of event spread over time, and obviously one would get the win, the other one would get the win, and then somehow they'd decide who was going to get the third win. But then, if you believe rumor and innuendo, Hogan played the Hogan card and said, no, brother, it's one and done. And that's, even though Shawn had found religion and was a new man, that didn't set too well with him, obviously. And so he over exaggerated every bump possible. Like, you would think that Hogan was some sort of Marvel or DC superhero with bionic powers, making Michaels bounce around like he did. And it's unfortunate for the business, and that's probably also one of the good examples of why Austin and Hogan never happened, because of the same mentality of not wanting to do business. But I can only imagine what could have been had egos not gotten in the way.
Well said. Hey, it's a happy 35th birthday to Benjamin Satterley, a.k.a. PAC Pack, also known as, of course, Adrian Neville. Or some kind of gargoyle-ish monster.
Well, Vince McMahon always wanted his own Mighty Mouse and stuff like that, and that's why Adrian Neville became Neville and wore a super cape, and it was almost like his Mighty Mouse. And yeah, Pac would have been great on the set of say The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, look at those ears, man.
With his look.
Fantastic. Some people pay for those ears.
Exactly.
Other birthdays go to Eve Marie Torres Gracie, who is the winner of the 2007 WWE Diva Search, and she is turning 37. And today would have been the 97th birthday of Patrick John O'Connor. Pat is a member of the Stampede Wrestling Hall of Fame, the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame since 1996, and the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame since 2007.
Happy birthday,
August
Pat.
22nd. 22 years ago, SummerSlam 99 from Minneapolis, Minnesota took place. Testa would defeat Shane McMahon in a Love Her, Leave Her Greenwich street fight match. The Undertaker and the Big Slow defeated X-Pac and Kane to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. And Mankind defeated Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H in a triple threat match to win the WWF Championship. And this was the year that the Minnesota Governor Jesse the Body Ventura was the special guest referee.
Yeah, a lot of things, at least briefly, got resolved between the issues of Vince and Jesse. And even though Jesse had already sued them, I think, by that time for rights for his voice being used on the WWE 24/7 channel and stuff like that, he was probably the only one who ever got money of that whole thing for royalties. And then I think there's a part during the match that Steve Austin gets tangled up in the ropes or something, and of all people, Triple H has to kind of help him, but not help him, and not make it look so obvious that he was helping him. But yeah, a decent match between them and Triple Threat.
Alrighty, and we're moving on to 16 years ago on Raw from Hampton, Virginia. John Cena defeated Chris Jericho in a "You're Fired" match to retain the WWE Championship. Per pre-match stipulations, Jericho was fired. Jericho would return to the WWE in November of 2007. 10 years ago on Raw from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Air Boom, Evan Bourne, and Kofi Kingston defeated David Otunga and Michael McGillicuddy to win the WWE Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, I'd like to see how many titles Kofi has with the tag teams, because I think the New Day is up to like 9 or 10, and then you have this reign with Evan Bourne, and I know him and CM Punk had at least one reign together. So Kofi is quite the decorated tag team champion.
Absolutely. 2 birthdays. One goes to Paul Ellering, the Road Warriors manager, on and off the camera, and it would be is his 68th birthday. And today would have been the 116th birthday of legendary wrestling promoter Sam Muchnick. He was inducted into the first Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame class back in 1996, and posthumously inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2003, the NWA Hall of Fame in 2005, and the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2007. August 23rd, 22 years ago at a Nitro, Raven walked out of WCW, taking Bishop up on his deal of anyone that wanted to leave could go back to ECW. Second, the show was main evented not by a match, but by the musical performance from rock band Kiss. The song they performed, God of Thunder, ended with the debut of the Kiss Demon. The Demon was originally played by Bryan Adams, but the gimmick was soon passed to Dale Tolberg. 22 years ago on Raw is more from Ames, Iowa. Triple H defeated Mankind to capture the WWF Championship. Shane McMahon was the special referee. Also on that show, Mark Henry is awarded the WWF European Championship by Jeff Jarrett one day after Henry turned on D'Lo Brown and helped Jarrett unify the European and Intercontinental titles. Doesn't that just kind of void what happened the night before?
Pretty much.
And the show features a pair of debuts. Stacey Carter debuted as Miss Kitty, the personal assistant for Jeff Jarrett's manager Deborah, and also Lillian Garcia made her debut for WWE. And I think she was the first, pretty much the second full-time announcer that they had. The first one was that Mike McGurk.
Yep, second female to do so. And the upside is she was able to do the national anthems. And I think probably upcoming in a future episode, we're probably going to end up talking about the September 13th show where she opened up with the national anthem and just killed it.
11 years ago, WWE presented SummerSlam. In the pre-show dark match, Beth Phoenix last eliminated Kelly and Eve Torres to win a 15 Diva Battle Royal. Kane defeated the Greek Khali. Randy Orton defeated John Cena to retain the WWE Championship. This had actually 3 restarts after Orton was disqualified, then was counted out, and had an illegal pin. In the main event, CM Punk defeated Jeff Hardy in a tables, ladders, and chairs match to win the World Heavyweight Championship. 6 years ago, The Undertaker beat Brock Lesnar by submission at SummerSlam.
Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do it at WrestleMania when it truly mattered.
Yes. Oh, well. August 24th, 36 years ago in Philly, the Dream Team, Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine, defeated the U.S. Express Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. Now it's a Rotundo.
His real name is Rotunda, but his character name was Rotundo for whatever reason.
So that's why it's all kind of mixed up.
In WWE, and then I think when he was over in NWA, WCW, it was Rotunda. And then, of course, he was IRS, BK Wall Street, Michael Wall
IRS,
Street.
I think, is one of the better gimmicks that they had, just for the reason that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have paid my taxes on time. I wouldn't have done my income taxes properly if it wasn't for his tutelage.
Cracking down on all the tax cheats.
That's right. 31 years ago in East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott, defeated the Rock and Roll Express to win the NWA United States Tag Team Championship. 27 years ago, WCW Clash of Champions 28, which was highlighted by the first ever singles match between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair on broadcast television. Flair would win via countout. The show featured the final televised match of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat until 2009, as he suffered a career-ending back injury during his match. Steamboat would be fired via FedEx the next month.
If I recall right, this is also the Clash of Champions where Hogan got attacked from behind and got his knee taken out. Not sure if this is the one where it was his first attack, or if this was the attack that he came back later and did the match with Flair, but then Masked Man came out at the end, and Hogan took him down and ripped off the mask and found out it was Brother Brudeye.
Yes, I'm going to say
the
that
Butcher.
because I remember that the one where he gets taken out by Brutus before they know it's Brutus. The main event there, Sting was called in and to fly in to take on Ric Flair, I believe.
Yeah, and it was questionable whether or not Hogan was going to be returning, but he made it out there and trooped it. He hung it out and did the Hogan thing, and then the comment of the night after he got his mask ripped off, it was Shivani going, "He just butchered a friendship."
Yes, nice.
God, what is he going to be called next?
25 years ago, WWF presented Experience from the Canadian National Exhibition Stadium in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. 21,211 were in attendance for the event, celebrating the 10th anniversary of the big event. The attendance for the event attracted only a third of the audience of 10 years ago. However, I don't know if this was a free event, as the previous one was, or if they actually, I don't know, does it say on there if it was free?
No, it doesn't. This is the just the paper that would have come in the program.
It might have been like it was a part of the CNE, but I'm not sure of that time because, and I know other fairs started doing it. They started to charge $5-10 if you wanted an actual, promised seat. And I'm thinking they might have started that around at that time.
Yeah, it's possible with that. But so if people are watching, they can see what the full card was.
Mm-hmm. Still a good amount of people. On the card was Jose Lothario defeating Jim Cornette. Psycho Sid defeated Vader in a lumberjack match. Playing the role of the lumberjacks were members of the CFL Canadian team, the Toronto Argonauts. The Undertaker would defeat Mankind in a casket match, and Shawn Michaels defeated Goldust in a ladder match to retain the WWF Championship. I would have been fine with that card.
Yeah, it looks like a wonderful card. I don't think in all the cards that I ever did attend, I don't recall ever seeing a casket match, so it would have been nice to have witnessed.
Yes, I definitely have. I can't recall seeing a casket match as well. Anywho, 22 years ago, Bart Gunn won the Brawl for All in $75,000.
Yeah,
what would it bring him, though?
Yeah, unfortunately, that ill-fated gimmick was not as productive as it probably could have been, because you had guys who were talking tough in the back, and that's what got the idea of this going. But when then you put them actually in the ring and put boxing gloves on wrestlers who don't normally box, just the steps, the timing, everything was so off. A lot of people thought that Steve Williams, Dr. Death, was being brought in uh, for this matter and was going to end up dominating the thing and get a title shot towards Austin. And that might have been some of the pipe dreams. But you also were having guys like JBL, who was talking tough backstage, and supposedly, if you believe dirt sheets, and even there was a whole episode on Dark Side of the Ring about this, but it was almost like Vince Russo and them were going, well, let's put your money where your mouth is and see if you actually can back up your words and beat somebody up. And that's why this was also a concept. But nobody ever expected Bart Gunn to come out of it. But there were so many injuries. It basically was the downfall of Steve Williams. It was almost the ending of Mark Canterbury, Henry Godwin. Just so many bad choices made through this. And thankfully, it's never been done again.
Indeed. 22 years ago was the first SmackDown. Triple H and The Rock was the main event with Michaels as the referee. Also on that card, Big Boss Man defeated Al Snow to win the WWF Hardcore Championship.
Yeah, this is considered the pilot episode for SmackDown, so it's not even, I don't think, considered episode number 1. It's the pilot, and then you had, I think this is the only time that basically Shawn Michaels and The Rock were ever in the ring together, because Shawn's reputation, regardless of how he did change afterwards and came back better to finding religion and everything, that attitude of his and the history kind of stuck around, and Rock, I think, refused to ever work with Shawn, and so we never got to see Shawn versus Rock. And the only interaction came when Shawn Michaels gave The Rock a super kick when The Rock was going for the people's elbow.
Wow. And 19 years ago, WWE presented SummerSlam 2003. The show had the debut of Rob Conway, who interfered in the World Tag Team Championship match, and the shortest Elimination Chamber match in WWE history, as participants entered in 3-minute intervals instead of 5. Kurt Angle defeated Brock Lesnar via submission to retain the WWE Championship. Kane defeated RVD in a no-holds-barred match. Triple H defeated Goldberg, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, and Kevin Nash in an Elimination Chamber match to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. 9 years ago, Arian Andrew, a.k.a. Cameron, was arrested and charged with driving under the influence in Tampa, Florida. Bad lady. But glad to see that she's got her life back on track.
Yeah, I think so. I think she recently appeared with Impact Wrestling for a tournament or something that they had. Might have been actually, it was the women's tag team tournament that AEW had. She was in there for part of it. Now that I think of which brand it was.
Moving on to August 25th, 37 years ago in Las Vegas, Nevada, the Road Warriors Hawk and Animal defeated the Crusher and Baron Von Raschke to win the AWA World Tag Team Championship. 30 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia, Sting defeated Stunning Steve Austin in the finals of a one-night tournament to win the vacated WCW United States Championship.
It's Sting!
Sting! 26 years ago in Pennsylvania, Too Cold Scorpio defeated Eddie Guerrero to win the ECW World TV title. 24 years ago on WCW Monday Nitro from Columbia, South Carolina, Martin Anderson. Oh, I guess is his first name really Martin?
Marty Lundy is his real name.
There you go. Arn Anderson announced his retirement from professional wrestling at age 38, giving his horseman spot to Kurt Hennig. And not just any spot.
Not a liver spot.
Nope. His spot.
Well, that always surprised me. Like when I was reading your notes here and I was looking for the pictures, I'm like, only 38? I thought he was at least that when he was in WWE in the late 90s and part of the Brainbusters. Like this man,
he's one of those guys, those males out there that look actually older than what they are. I bet you he was able to get into bars when he was like 13 or 14.
Oh yeah, like just he looks older than what he ever was. Now he's looking more his age, but still.
And he actually looks pretty good for his age.
Oh, yeah.
21 years ago in New York City, Mikey Whipwreck and Yashiro Tajiri defeated Jerry Lynn and Tommy Dreamer and Johnny Swinger and Simon Diamond in a three-way dance to win the vacated ECW World Tag Team Championship. 19 years ago, Brock Lesnar defeated The Rock to win the WWE Undisputed Championship. The win would make the 25-year-old Lesnar the youngest world champion in WWE at the time. And as you pointed out last week, the youngest is still Randy Orton.
Yep.
10 years ago at an Impact Wrestling taping in Huntsville, Alabama, Mickie James defeated Winter to win the TNA Knockouts Championship.
Yeah, and this weekend she's actually producing for the NWA a all-women's empowerment pay-per-view on Saturday, and then I believe she's wrestling on the 73rd anniversary pay-per-view of the NWA next night on the Sunday. So if you're a Mickie James fan, she's leading the women's role, I guess still. Don't want to usually use the word evolution because that's WWE's thing, but empowerment. But they're getting women from all the different organizations that are not WWE to be a part of it, and then going over to do the other show the following night. And it definitely helps that her husband's been the champion for NWA for about 2 years now.
And that's Nigel, right?
No, Nick Aldis.
That's it, Nick Aldis. I just watched a recent Power, and I don't know. I always get that name mixed up with the other guy. Anyways, today would have been the 54th birthday of Mike Lockwood, a.k.a. Crash Holly. And it would have also been the 79th birthday to Orel Perez, best known to wrestling fans as the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff.
The Russian
and the final birthday
Canadian.
For August 25th. It would have been the 90th birthday for Regis Philbin, who made many appearances with wrestlers throughout his career, both on his show and with WWE production.
Yeah, they actually, in the Two Dudes with Attitude documentary that they have on the network, they had Shawn and Diesel on there from the Regis show. And, of course, Warrior was there. So many people tearing up.
I know Rick Rude was on there.
Yeah, I believe Undertaker and Paul Bearer. Hogan, of course. Randy and Elizabeth were there.
Nice.
Warrior.
August 26th, our last day for this week. 46 years ago in Philly, the Blackjacks, lands on Mulligan, defeated Irish Pat Barrett and Dominic DiNucci to win the Triple WF Tag Team Championship. How about that instead of WWF? And Barrett was a substitute for Victor Riviera, who had just left the company. 42 years ago in Orlando, Florida, Harley Race defeated Dusty Rhodes to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship back. 35 years ago, WWF taped the first ever episodes of WWF Superstars of Wrestling. There were a couple of notable bits of trivia with these tapings. Jesse Ventura returned to the booth for the first time since taking time off to film Predator. Coco Beware made his WWF debut at the taping, and Mick Foley was wrestling as Jack Foley as a tribute to his father. And he would team with Les Thornton in a losing effort to the British Bulldogs. It was Foley's second ever professional match.
Yeah, and he got his jaw broken during the match, getting hit by a clothesline, I believe, from Dynamite Kid. Dynamite did not take it easy on him that night. And he made it all these years later. But that was a huge hit and sort of a testing ground. Sometimes guys of his caliber get hit and wonder if they're ever going to come back. And, well, Jack definitely came back and
Sure did
a whole lot more.
30 years ago, WWF presented SummerSlam, the match made in heaven and the match made in hell. This one really makes me feel old. The British Bulldog, the Dragon, and the Texas Tornado defeated Power and Glory, being Hercules and Paul Roma, with the Warlord. Bret Hart defeated Mr. Perfect to win the WWF IC Championship. This would be Perfect's final match for a little over a year, as he suffered a broken tailbone and bulged discs in his back and needed time away to recover. During his 15 months away, he transitioned to commentating and managing. And of course, that was a fantastic match, though it was kind of spoiled by the coach that was out there blowing his damn whistle the whole friggin' match.
Yeah, good old John Tolos.
Do some editing. I wonder if that's in there. I wonder if they kept that whistling in there.
Actually, I watched it the other day because before my surgery, I needed to quarantine and sat at home and watched one of my favorite SummerSlams, which is 91. And yeah, Tolos is still blowing his whistle during that whole thing. I'm not sure if I would just shut it out because I knew it was there, or if they have edited a slight bit to. Tolos is still obviously within the thing, and then of course you get that really bad interview with the Hart family and Lord Alfred Hayes afterwards, trying to interview them as Bret's celebrating with his mommy and daddy and showing them, "Look, mommy, look what I brought home."
The National Disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon, defeated the Bushwhackers, Butch and Luke. This match featured the final television appearance of Andre the Giant in the WWF. Virgil defeated Ted DiBiase to win the $1 Million Championship. The Big Boss Man defeated the Mountie in a jailhouse match. As a result of the loss, the Mountie had to spend the night in jail.
They had some very entertaining...
And that was funny as shit.
Yeah, very entertaining vignettes in between him getting fingerprinted and offering the finger, and finally flipped on the bird, and then they pried open the rest of his hands. He refused to get his picture taken, and he had his head down until they insulted him, and then he looked up and they clicked the photo, and he started complaining. Then one of the final ones, obviously, at the end of the whole thing, was where he ended up meeting another male in the cell who wanted to become a really close friend of his that night in the cells in New York.
And when they cut away, you could now, if they could edit in the sound to Oz in there, that would be perfect.
Yeah, and I think after that one, also they came back because it was just before they ended up doing the wedding, because they needed to do those vignettes and help clear out the ring. And they finished off with that, and Heenan and Piper had just lost it and were uncontrollably laughing during that return, and Monsoon's trying to keep everything going.
Virgil defeated Ted DiBiase to win the $1 Million Championship. The Big Boss Man defeated the Mountie. Maybe I already said that one. I can't remember. Oh, well. The Legion of
Funny.
Doom, Hawk and Animal defeated the Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs and Jerry Saggs, in a no DQ match to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. And Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior defeated the Triangle of Terror, Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan, and Colonel Mustafa in a handicap match. Sid Justice was the special referee. That match is pretty terrible. I don't really recommend watching it. There you go.
Yeah,
and Randy
and it
Savage
was also
married his already wife at the end of the event. Go ahead.
yeah, and then for some sad reason, as much as Vince put everything into this whole wedding storyline, it went downhill for them afterwards, and they were soon divorced in real life. So it was kind of sad. Everything that led up to the revelation and storyline of them getting together and marrying was all for naught in real life. But then going back to the Warrior match, this was also heavily talked about with the fact that I guess Warrior demanded money from Vince before he went out there, and he got paid, and that way the match could go on. But as soon as as soon as he chased Adnan and Mustafa to the back with the chair, he made it to the back of the curtain and was almost instantly fired.
Yep. The Warrior, a jerk. 19 years ago on Raw, I might have skipped, there we go, 22 years ago at an ECW on TNN taping, the Dudley Boys defeated Spike Dudley and Balls Mahoney to win the ECW World Tag Team Championship for the 8th time. Moments later, Dreamer and Raven defeated the Dudleys to win the tag team titles. Post-match, the Dudleys were given a standing ovation and farewell as they were headed to the WWF.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I honestly had seen when it first aired. I didn't overly watch ECW on TNN too often because it was so hard to locate. It was juggled around after the first couple episodes aired, but this was episode number 2, I believe, from the Hammerstein. And yeah, the Dudleys were leaving, but they went out and did the job and honors on their way out. I always enjoyed when that happened, especially in Ring of Honor and ECW. They would at least do the right thing instead of walking out or jumping ship without putting somebody else over. But this was actually a really good episode and worth checking out. And I know it's on Daily Motion because that's how I was trying to get some of the photos for this. But it's definitely also on the WD Network. So well worth going back for this episode. If any others, great. But go of your way to see this one.
19 years ago on Raw from New York City, RVD defeated Tommy Dreamer in a hardcore match to unify the WWE IC and Hardcore Championships. This version of the hardcore belt would be retired. 14 years ago, WWE presented SummerSlam 2007. The show featured the returns of both Triple H and Rey Mysterio. Some of the matches on the card: Triple H defeated King Booker. Batista defeated the Great Khali by DQ in a World Heavyweight Championship match. I can just imagine that was terrible. And John Cena defeated Randy Orton to retain the WWE Championship.
Yeah, there was during a time when almost every pay-per-view was Cena and Orton and juggling the belt back and forth between them.
Yes. And 10 years ago, Unoco, George Arias, began performing as Sin Cara, replacing Louis Irvine. And that is it for this week in wrestling history. Of course, it's compiled from the vast land of Google, Wikipedia, CageSideSeats.com, and most importantly, from fans and journalists that had front row seats to history and happened to write it down. And long before computers, or at least long before computers were popular. And a big thank you to our sponsor, Coolbet, Coolbet.com, and sports book betting and casino games. Stay cool and bet responsibly.
Excellent. Yes, always thank you to Coolbet for all the support that they have for all our shows. A little bit lax at the moment with injuries and COVID reopenings. But like I said, we're always keeping this one going and going to get back on schedule once we can. But I thank all our fans for joining us. If you have any suggestions, comments, contact us on Facebook, on our page. Email us at scumbagswrestling@gmail.com, or go check out our page, scumbagswrestling.ca. We just finished session 1 of the Predictions League. So all the scores are setting back at 0 in time for All Out. So you can always join us and get yourself in the tournament trying to win that championship belt. So the details are also on our website, scumbagswrestling.ca. And just a reminder, go to Pro Wrestling Tees, buy one of our shirts, support Steven's Wrestling Journey, and buy the Ontario comic book cover. Any of our other shirts, you're always going to look great with Pro Wrestling Tees. The Raw is War one is going to be going off in just a couple of weeks, maybe a week, I think it is. You just have to upload the new design over at Pro Wrestling Tees, and we'll change this graphic around and do that. And also, reminder, this weekend, go to Heatwave Hot Sauce Expo Summer Market happening at Budweiser Gardens, August 28th, 29th. 35 vendors of hot sauces, all from around Ontario. Check out the craft beer, chicken wings, and live entertainment and more. Tickets are $10 in advance. They're going to be slightly bit higher in person. And of course, they're going to be following all COVID protocols per the health unit to make sure everybody has a safe time and enjoys themselves. Like I said at the beginning, Ontario, London is just almost the center of everything. So it's just a short drive from wherever you are to London, Ontario, and go out and support these great events. As Jonesy knows, there was a lot of big turnout for Ribfest, and people were safely doing so. You can do that again and support Hot Sauce Heatwave Expo.
Yep, let's hope they get a big crowd there, and make sure you go see Rocco's booth. He's got the Hot Rocco's sauce there, and go check his stuff out.
Yep, we got people we know involved with that, so definitely need to support those that support us. So thank you, Chris. We are going to check out of here. It's almost 1 o'clock by the time people are finished watching this. Back to work time after lunches, but I have to get my cast off potentially and head up the road to Timmins, Ontario. So hopefully everybody has a wonderful weekend. We'll get back to our regular podcast very shortly, and we'll be back next week with another edition of This Week in History. So until next time, have a great one.